The big story coming out of the African Cup of Nations after Cameroon's win to book a place in the quarter-finals is that at least 6 people have died in a stampede around the stadium. Ed Dove joins us now. Ed, you're at the game. What can you tell us?
Well, obviously, this is a developing situation. I think we'll only truly know the full extent of what's happened in the coming hours and the coming days. But I learned during the game that there had been a stampede before the match as supporters had attempted to get into the stadium. I spoke to a gendarme and a member of a third-party security official after the match, and they explained to me that supporters at the south entrance had tried to enter in. There was a stampede, and those who were on the bottom were trampled. As you mentioned, 7 people, I think, have been confirmed as dead, and over 40 have been reported as attending hospital. I was in the stadium medical centre after the match. I saw people on stretchers being loaded onto ambulances. They were attached to ECGs. And I spoke to the medical team there who had explained that they'd had to treat some people in the medical space that was reserved for players because that's where they'd come to seeking medical help and support.
Ed, were you aware of any of this that was happening as you were going to the stadium and around the stadium, the lead-off to kick off what was going on?
Well, it seems a long time ago now, but actually in the build-up to the match, we had this remarkable story about the Comoros goalkeeper and whether or not the Comoros would be allowed to use a goalkeeper against Cameroon. So I got to the stadium very early. I was chasing up this story as to whether or not the Comoros would have a player, a recognised goalkeeper between the sticks. And so I was only aware of what unfolded outside the stadium and what happened later on during the game when I heard talk about it and then went to seek information about what had actually happened.
Ed, looking at it going forward, how could this affect the tournament, and will it affect it at all in its completion?
I would be very surprised if the tournament didn't continue. I don't really think that's on the table at all. CAF have launched a statement this evening. That's the Confederation of African Football, and they've said that they're beginning an investigation into the causes, into the origins of this situation. The CAF Secretary General is also visiting those injured people in hospital, and I suspect they'll be gathering statements from officials to understand exactly what went wrong and how to avoid that situation moving forward. Obviously, it's dampened the excitement, the enthusiasm in Cameroon this evening, but that almost feels trite to talk about football, to talk about sporting outcomes, who plays who, etc., when we're dealing with people dying and people who are currently, as we speak, in life and death situations.
Was there any concern regarding the organisation and security around the stadiums, around ticketing, leading up to the start of the tournament overall?
Well, the main talk, the main kind of polemic, the main concern has been around coronavirus restrictions and whether people would be allowed, under what conditions people would be allowed in the ground. The Stade d'Olembe, the stadium in Yaoundé where they played this evening, that's been capped at 80% capacity. Other games have been capped at 60% capacity. So reduced capacity more than usual. But at the Africa Cup of Nations, only games involving the hosts, such as tonight's game, are likely to be oversubscribed or even capacity. I did see at the Stade Ahidjo, the other stadium in Yaoundé, I saw people gathering around entrances ahead of the Egypt-Sudan game. And it was just because when everyone's checking people's COVID passes, they're checking their vaccination statement, it takes that much longer to get people through the gates. And so therefore the queues kind of gather, people get impatient, there's a kind of nervous energy in the air because people want to get into the stadium. So I'd seen that, but it hadn't been anything more than that before this evening.
Ed, thank you very much for your time, much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.